Okay, so, wow, this Elder Stevenson talk from October conference.
Days never to be forgotten.
Yeah, days never to be forgotten.
Big title.
It's a big title, and it feels like a big deal.
It does.
He lays out, like, all these predictions for the next 10 years, but specifically for, like, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? He really hones in on this decade.
It's like he's giving us a sneak peek, and not just like a little peek, like a full-on panorama of what's to come.
A cryptic message from the future.
Totally. And not just like, oh, things are going to be interesting, more like, buckle up, things are about to get wild. Where do we even start with a message like that?
I think the place to start is the pace he sets right out of the gate.
Yeah, okay, the pace.
The sheer volume of stuff he packs into this relatively short time frame of historically significant events.
And he doesn't waste any time. Like, first thing, he's like, boom, this decade's going to be like the 1820s.
It's a bold comparison, we're sure.
Bold. I mean, that's the decade with the first vision, the restoration, the whole shebang. I almost choked on my cereal when I first heard it.
I can imagine. But the more you think about it, the more it makes you wonder if he's on to something. Like, are we really about to experience that level of change and growth?
Okay, hold on. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's back up. For those who haven't memorized the last 200 years of church history, what exactly went down in the 1820s that makes it such a big deal?
It's all about foundations, isn't it? You had the restoration of the priesthood, the coming forth of the Book of Mormon, the organization of the church itself.
The restoration, like capital R restoration.
Exactly. All the things that the church is built on today all happened that one crazy decade.
Okay, so Elder Stevenson is drawing a direct line between this decade and the one where it all began. But what does that even look like? Are we talking another Book of Mormon dropping anytime soon?
Not exactly, no. But he does highlight a few key areas where we're going to see some major developments, and I think temples are a huge part of it.
Temples, okay, yeah, he talks a lot about temples.
It's not just a lot about temples. Did you know the church is planning to dedicate something like 164 new temples in the next 10 years?
164.
Wow.
Okay, even I know that's a lot.
It's almost triple the number they dedicated in the last decade, which is mind-blowing when you think about the logistical feat that represents.
Cool, okay, back up for a second. I just got a mental image of, like, temples popping up like mushrooms.
It's a powerful visual, right? But it's not just about the numbers.
Right, of course. It's not just about, like, a construction boom.
Exactly. Each one of those temples represents a community of faith, people coming together to worship and serve.
And not just members, right? Think about the impact those temples will have on the surrounding communities. The outreach, the humanitarian efforts, the sheer goodwill they generate. That's huge.
It's about expanding the reach of the gospel, both geographically and spiritually, making those sacred spaces more accessible to more people.
Okay, getting chills. Just think about it. 164 temples. And that's not even mentioning the big 200 coming up in 2030.
The bicentennial, now that's going to be something special.
Okay, history nerd moment, I'll admit it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine the celebrations, the pageantry? I bet they're already planning something spectacular.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just going to be a local thing either. This is the kind of event that draws international attention. People will be watching from all over the world.
Talk about an opportunity. It's like this amazing platform to share the history, the message, the spirit of the church with a global audience.
A global stage to showcase who we are and what we believe. And in a world that's increasingly skeptical of organized religion, that kind of visibility is more important than ever.
You're right. But, okay, before we lose ourselves in bicentennial daydreams, didn't he also say something about the Olympics? Now, that threw me for a loop.
The 2034 Winter Olympics.
Yeah. Salt Lake City's hosting again.
That's right. And Elder Stevenson seems to think it's more than just a sporting event.
Definitely more than just a sporting event. He makes it clear that this is a massive opportunity for the church to shine on a global stage. It's like he's saying, the world is coming to our doorstep. Let's show them what we're all about.
He talks about the Olympics as a symbol of global unity.
All those countries, all those cultures, coming together in the spirit of friendly competition.
Exactly. And he seems to be suggesting that the church has a unique role to play in fostering that same spirit of unity and understanding, not just during the games themselves, but in the years leading up to them.
So it's not just about cheering on the athletes, although we'll definitely be doing that. It's about embodying those same Olympic ideals. Excellence, friendship, respect.
And sharing those values with the world. Remember that part where he talks about the church becoming a beacon of light in an increasingly dark world?
Oh yeah, that gave me chills. But, it's not just about the big events, the temples, the Olympics, the celebrations. He also talks a lot about individual members, specifically the youth.
That's where things start to get really interesting.
He calls them out specifically, saying that this coming decade is their time to shine.
It's like he's handing them the baton, saying, it's your turn to run with it.
He lays out 4 things, divinely appointed responsibilities, he calls them.
Living the gospel authentically.
Yes. Serving those in need.
Inviting others to come and see.
And prioritizing family history and temple work.
Pretty tall order.
It is. But he's not just piling on the pressure, is he? He seems to genuinely believe that young people are uniquely equipped for this moment.
They're digital natives, they're natural collaborators, and they're passionate about making a difference in the world.
It's like they've been preparing for this their whole lives without even realizing it. And now with all these incredible opportunities on the horizon, it's like their time to step into the spotlight.
And not just be witnesses to history, but to actually shape it.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I kind of wish I was young again. This coming decade, it feels electric. Like something big is about to happen.
And a little bit terrifying too, right?
Maybe a little bit terrifying, yeah. But mostly exciting.
It's the kind of excitement that makes you want to grab life by the horns and say, bring it on.
Exactly. So where does that leave those of us who aren't, shall we say, spring chickens anymore? Are we just relegated to the sidelines for this one?
I don't think so at all. Remember, he also talks about the importance of mentoring, of sharing our wisdom and experience with the rising generation.
We've got to be the cheerleaders, the mentors, the ones who say, we believe in you, go make us proud.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that this isn't an us versus them situation. We're all in this together.
And that's what makes this message so powerful. It's a call to action for everyone, regardless of age or experience. We all have a role to play in building this brighter future.
A future that, as Elder Stevenson promises, will be filled with experiences and blessings never to be forgotten. It's funny, to think about that comparison to the 1820s.
Yeah.
It's like Elder Stevenson is saying, remember that decade, that really foundational one? Yeah, well, get ready for round 2.
I'll admit, I thought it was a bit dramatic at first, Like, we're not expecting another first vision here.
Right.
But the more we've talked about this, the more I'm seeing the parallels. This isn't just hyperbole. The guy's onto something.
It all comes back to those foundations, doesn't it?
Foundations, yeah.
The 1820s, that's where everything started. You think about it, that's the restoration of the priesthood. The Book of Mormon appears.
Literally, the church wouldn't exist without those things.
Exactly. It's the ground floor, and it wasn't built overnight, and it wasn't easy.
No, definitely not easy. Those early members, talk about facing adversity.
Persecution, hardship.
It's like they forged their faith in fire.
And that's what made it so strong, right?
It's true, that whole what doesn't kill you thing, maybe it really does apply to faith.
That's like refining a metal. The more heat you apply, the purer it gets. And I think what Elder Stevenson is suggesting is that we might be headed into a similar refining period as a church.
Okay, refining period. That sounds kind of intense. You think things are going to get tougher?
Well, let's be honest. We're already seeing some of those pressures. The world's becoming increasingly secular, right?
Yeah, true.
There's this growing skepticism towards organized religion.
And, let's not forget, in some parts of the world, it's straight up hostility, not just skepticism.
Right. And in those places, it takes real courage to live your faith openly.
It's not getting any easier to be a person of faith in the public square, that's for sure.
No, it's not. But maybe, and I'm just throwing this out there, maybe that's part of what makes this moment so significant.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
It's in those crucibles, when our faith is tested, that it has the potential to become something truly unshakable, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Like you were saying earlier, like forging metal.
Exactly. And I think that's where those early saints can teach us a lot.
Okay, so what can we learn from them? Give me some history lessons.
They didn't shy away from their beliefs, even when it was hard. They didn't water down the gospel to make it more palatable to the world. They held on to their convictions, even when it meant sacrifice, even when it meant persecution.
And look at the legacy they left behind. They changed the world.
And it makes you wonder, what if they'd given in? What if they'd compromised?
Right. Would the church be what it is today?
Yeah.
It's kind of mind-blowing to think about.
We're reaping the rewards of their courage and their sacrifice. And I think what Elder Stevenson is saying is that now it's our turn. We have that same opportunity, that same responsibility to stand up for what we believe, even when it's hard, even when it's unpopular.
Okay, I can get behind that. But it's not all doom and gloom, right? There's got to be some good stuff coming, too.
Oh, absolutely. Remember, the 1820s weren't just about persecution. It was also a time of incredible growth for the church. It was like wildfire, spreading across the globe.
Through word of mouth, right. Like those early missionaries, they just went out and shared their testimonies with anyone who would listen.
Exactly. They traveled far and wide, often with very little to their name, facing all sorts of dangers and hardships.
Just to share what they knew to be true is kind of humbling, you know?
It really is. And while the methods might be different today, I mean, we have the internet now.
Hello, Instagram missionary.
Exactly. But that core desire, that need to share the gospel with others, that hasn't changed.
And we have more tools than ever to do it. Social media, online communities, it's like we can connect with the entire world without even leaving our living rooms.
It's amazing, isn't it? But I also think there's still something to be said for that face-to-face connection.
For sure, for sure. A text message can't replace a hug, you know what I mean?
That's what Elder Stevenson was talking about when he said we need to let our light shine so brightly that others can't help but notice.
You know what? That's a really good point. It's not enough to just like post scriptures online. It's about living them, about embodying the gospel in everything we do.
Exactly. It's about letting our actions speak louder than our words.
Because people can spot a fake a mile away, right? Especially young people.
They can smell inauthenticity from a mile away. They don't want to be preached at. They want to be inspired.
They want to see what it looks like to live a life of faith in a way that's joyful and, dare I say, cool.
Exactly. They want to see that it's possible to be a person of faith and still be fully engaged with the world. That you can have fun, be creative, make a difference.
It's about showing them that faith isn't about escaping from the world. It's about engaging with it, about making it a better place.
That's a great way to put it. It's about rolling up our sleeves, getting our hands dirty, and building something beautiful together.
And that's where those divinely appointed responsibilities come in, right?
Exactly. It's not just about passively believing. It's about actively doing. It's about taking those principles, caring for the poor and the needy, strengthening families, sharing the gospel, and turning them into concrete actions.
So less talk, more action.
Precisely. It's time to stop talking about the kind of world we want to create and start building it.
Okay, I'm ready to build. But where do we start? It feels like such a massive undertaking, you know?
It can feel overwhelming, for sure. But I think Elder Stevenson gives us a clue when he keeps coming back to that phrase. Days never to be forgotten. He's not just talking about those big, splashy events, the temple dedications, the bicentennial celebrations.
It's about something deeper, isn't it?
It's about those individual moments of grace, of connection, of spiritual awakening that have the power to transform us from the inside out.
Okay, I like that. But what does that look like in practice? Give me an example.
It could be as simple as a heartfelt prayer that's answered in a way you didn't expect.
Or like that feeling you get when you're serving someone and you know, like really know
Yeah.
that you're making a difference.
It could be a moment of profound peace during a temple ceremony, or even just a conversation with a friend that opens your heart in a new way.
It's those moments where we feel truly alive, truly connected to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And those are the moments that have the power to stay with us long after the event itself is over.
It's like they become part of our DNA, shaping who we are and who we're becoming.
And the more we open ourselves up to those experiences, the more we invite them into our lives, the more those individual transformations have the power to ripple outwards.
Creating a wave of change that can impact not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us.
Imagine a world where everyone is striving to live with that same level of intentionality, that same commitment to love, compassion, and service.
It's like a chain reaction of goodness.
And I think that's what Elder Stevenson is ultimately calling us to do, to be the catalysts for that kind of change, starting in our own homes and our own communities, and then who knows how far that ripple effect might reach.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've looked back at the 1820s. We've unpacked Elder Stevenson's vision for the next 10 years.
A lot to take in.
It is. But now for the big question, the one I know everyone's thinking.
Yeah.
What does it all mean? Like, how do we put this into practice? Because this isn't some prophecy we just file away, right?
Definitely no.
It feels urgent, like a call to action.
It is, and I think that's what makes this talk so powerful.
It's about what we're going to do, not just what's going to happen to the church.
It's about agency, about stepping into this moment with intention.
Okay, I love that. But he doesn't exactly give us a step-by-step guide, does he? Which is exciting, but also, like, where do we even begin?
He keeps coming back to personal revelation, doesn't he?
He does, like a lot.
It's like he's saying, look, I can paint the big picture, but the details, those are between you and the Lord.
So, less paint by numbers, more choose your own adventure.
Exactly. It's about taking this grand vision and making it deeply personal. What resonates with you? What makes your soul ignite?
Instead of waiting for someone to tell us what to do, we're supposed to be out there asking, seeking, knocking, figuring out our own unique role in this whole thing.
It's about becoming co-creators, wouldn't you say?
Ooh, co-creators. I like that.
We're not just following a script, we're being invited to participate in the writing of it.
Okay, now my mind is officially blown. But also, if I'm being honest, a little terrified. Like, what if I mess up my lines?
That's the beauty of it, though, isn't it? There are no wrong answers, only opportunities to learn and grow. And we don't have to do it alone.
That's right, he talks a lot about community.
We need each other, especially when things get tough, which, let's be real, they probably will.
Because we're human. We're going to
Sure.
stumble, we're going to get discouraged. We need those people who can pick us up, dust us off, and say, come on, let's keep going.
Exactly. We need those support systems, those communities of faith, to remind us why we started this journey in the first place.
And not just people who agree with us on everything, right?
Right. In fact, sometimes the most important conversations happen when we're engaging with people who see the world differently than we do.
It's about building bridges instead of walls.
About finding common ground, even when we disagree.
Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, right?
We are, and that's a message the world desperately needs to hear right now.
It's so easy to get bogged down in negativity, in division, in fear.
It is. But Elder Stevenson's message offers a powerful alternative.
It's a reminder that we have a choice.
We can choose faith over fear, hope over despair, love over hate.
Even when it's hard, even when the world feels dark.
Especially them.
Because those small acts of courage, of compassion, of kindness,
They matter.
they have the power to change the world.
One person at a time.
And that's what makes this whole days never to be forgotten thing so incredibly exciting, isn't it?
It is.
Like we're all characters in this epic adventure story, and the ending is still being written.
And we get to choose how we show up.
What role will we play?
What kind of impact will we make?
The choice is ours. And that, my friends, is something worth thinking about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.